Welcome friends to another r/pro revenge video. As always, if you enjoy these stories, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by OttGuy42, Revenge of the Highway Construction Boss. First things first, this is a story that an old friend/coworker of mine told me years ago. This friend has since passed away, RIP Greg, so I'm unable to go back to him to get more details. Greg's family lived near Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Greg's dad was in construction, working as a job site foreman, and Calgary was going through an oil boom in the 1980s, and new roads and highways needed to be built. The practice at the time, probably still is, was to get expensive surveyors to lay out the path for the road at the start of the project, and the path was marked with wooden stakes in the ground. These roads were going through some of the grasslands on Calgary's outskirts, and good progress was being made on the road in question. Then one morning, the crew got to the job site and found out that all of the stakes had been knocked over. Calgary had, maybe still has, its fair share of yahoos and pickup trucks who like to cause trouble. So from the tire tracks, they figure that during the night, someone had found the job site, noticed the stakes, and decided it would be fun to drive over all of them. I suppose today's yahoos and pickups would be deterred by cheaper surveillance cameras, but this was 30 to 35 years ago. Greg's dad was fuming, but he had to call the surveyors back in to do the layout again before they could continue. A few nights later, the same thing happened again. They arrived at the site and found all of the stakes knocked out again. Another call to the surveyor's office later, they had the road mapped again, but Greg's dad had a plan. Construction sites can have a lot of rebar and other types of iron and other metals lying around. They also have lots of heavy equipment for applying force to things. After the stakes were mapped out for the third time, Greg's dad got a crew together to drive out an 8-foot-long piece of iron vertically into the ground directly behind one of the stakes near the end of the road layout, with the top of the iron in line with the top of the stake. Then he waited. A small number of days later, he got to the job site and found a wrecked pickup truck in the field, along the road's path. Its oil pan and other undercarriage components had been ripped off by the metal post that was protruding from the ground. They had signs all around the site indicating that unauthorized vehicles were prohibited, entering was at your own risk, etc. So they were covered from a legal standpoint. With the truck as evidence, they were able to find its owner and have him charged with trespassing, destruction of property, mischief, and anything else they could make stick. Considering this guy drove his truck through here over and over and knocked it down already 2 times, does the thought of that truck driver driving through here and totally tearing up the underneath of his pickup truck kind of satisfy you a little bit? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Board BSEE, Project Skunk, An Engineer's Tale. Decades ago, I worked the worst crap job of my life as a software engineer, writing code for an OBD2 car code scanner at a completely dysfunctional business I'm not going to name, but I'll drop a hint and say all their products are all orange. It was right after 9/11, I was laid off and jobs were nearly impossible to find, but I managed to land one there, and out of desperation I took the job. And there, I met probably the best friend I ever made at work. I'll call him Agent S. Agent S was a coder's coder, a real laid-back guy, and an all-around good egg. Imagine if the dude could code. You'd pretty much have Agent S. We had many wonderful overlong lunches working there, and I needed the calm he taught me because that place was nuts. All the departments poisonously hated each other, the head of engineering was as paranoid as a Russian Tsar, rampant abuse, theft, the works. A total madhouse. But eventually, everyone has their limit, and Agent S had put in his 2 weeks notice. Just to let you know how nice he was the only person that quit that wasn't escorted to his car immediately by an armed guard, which was standard procedure. He was permitted to put in his last 2 weeks. So imagine my surprise when Agent S said, "I want some payback before I go." Maybe a few days earlier, the paranoid czar of engineering gave us this odd missive. When you leave your desk for any reason, you are to take your papers on your desk and lock them in your desk. You are to lock your computer. You are to put a password in your BIOS and shut down your machine when you leave for the night. You are to erase your marker boards. Leave no scrap of paper out or any hint of what you're working on. And no explanation why, which was standard for him. Just do it. Of course, we all wanted to know why. So our man in the field, I'll call him Bond, went about finding out. Bond was social and likable and had friends in every department in the increasingly balkanized organizational structure. I'll ask around, and don't tell anybody. He found out. Engineering czar got word somehow that people in the sales department were working late and waiting for engineering to leave. Once we left, they were going through our desks and computers looking for clues as to what we were working on. They would then copy the stuff down, claim it as a project I'm heading up, and present the material to their superiors so they could look valuable and get raises and all that fun sales stuff. Yes, I know, sales is supposed to query their customers for features they'd like, then make proposals to engineering. I did say this place is dysfunctional, right? Engineers drove the product design since sales couldn't be bothered. And why should they, when they could just steal it instead, right? So Agent S had enough. We made Project Skunk. All projects in this place were named after an animal. We decided to leave a hint in the name that all was not as it should be. And we dreamed up the most amazing OBD2 scanner in the world. Here are some of the specs. Since everyone knows 32-bit processors are more expensive than 8-bit processors, we would save money by using a 2-bit processor. The EEP ROMs that held the automotive database were expensive as well. So, to save space, we would use zip to compress the database 12 times and store it on a single 4K EEPROM. Predictive analysis. If you enter in the last few codes your car threw, it would extrapolate and tell you the next part on your car that was going to break. I thought of this one, I'm especially proud of it. And so on. We spent a happy afternoon drawing up box diagrams with flux capacitors and n-dimensional grommets and yo-yo-dyne compensators, lots of specs and analysis and other assorted bits of utter nonsense. We scattered them all over Agent S's desk, then went home. The very next day, our man in the field, Bond, gives us the news. Project Skunk is a hit. The entire building is buzzing over it. Salespeople are tripping over each other taking credit. It took about a week before the stolen goods were finally passed upstream to the six-figure guys before someone with half a clue noticed that everything in the project was absolutely freaking impossible. Agent S had left by then, but I tracked him down and we had lunch, and I told him the results of the ill harvest he had left behind. Sales had been seriously embarrassed in front of their superiors, and the ones over them as well. I don't know if anything came of it. It was an old boys network there, and I'm sure they covered for each other somehow. But they were embarrassed and they were hurt. How do I know? Every day from that day on, anytime a person from sales passed me in a hallway or something, they would physically turn their face from me to shun me. It was hilarious. Like somehow I'm the jerk for making fake stuff for them to steal. They went under not too long after that. The building's now a medical company supplying COVID masks. Just the reality that after the fact that they got exposed for trying to steal stuff and pass it off as their own, they still had the gall to look down on the engineers? I feel like if that went on long enough, that would be like a free pass to just throw it back in their face that, hey, they're the thieves here. This next story's by Rum Bun Bun. Shadow me, lose the dress. Years ago, I was browsing through a rack of shirts in a women's discount clothing store. I was the only customer in there when a Karen walked in. I heard Karen tell the clerk she'd come back for a size small denim dress she'd seen a couple days ago. It buttoned down the front and had flowers embroidered around the hem. The clerk said if there were any left, they would be in the dress section. But instead of going to the dress area, Karen made a beeline for the same rack I was looking at, standing right beside me, blocking my access to the clothes that I hadn't yet looked at. Now, this was a good-sized store, but she had to look at the rack I was on. Sigh. So I moved on to the jeans. Karen decided to follow me to the jeans, again standing right beside me and reaching in front of me to grab a pair to try on. When I moved over to dress pants, she followed, and again to jewelry. I hope I'm not in your way, I said to her sarcastically. Oh no, you're fine, she said, oblivious to my tone as she reached right in front of my face and snatched a pair of earrings off the rack in front of me. I moved to the clearance area, so naturally Karen did too. Finally, my shadow and I headed to dresses. Suddenly, hanging high on the far side wall behind a short black dress, I saw an inch of denim with embroidered flowers peeking out behind it. I walked over, pulled the black dress down, and lo and behold, the holy grail, the ugly denim dress in size small. I heard Karen gasp and saw her moving in toward me from the corner of my eye. When she was a mere 3 or 4 feet away, reaching toward the denim dress, I reached out and snatched it up and waltzed over to the checkout counter. She followed and had the nerve to ask me, "Aren't you even going to try that on? I want to buy it if you don't want it." I just smiled sweetly and said I'd take my chances since I had 60 days to return it. As I left, I could hear her whining to the clerk that she'd asked about the dress first and it wasn't fair. She didn't even try it on. I returned the dress to another store location across town shortly before the return period was over. Definitely petty. Maybe if you'd gone over and looked in the dress area instead of shadowing my every move, you would have scored the ugly denim dress, Karen. I'm trying to understand why she would even want to do this. My guess would be maybe she was worried that OP would be picking up all the good stuff or something. I know personally if I was going to a store for a very specific item, I would beeline for that and make sure I got that up real quick. Then, I don't know, you can go do your petty following people around thing. At least you would have gotten what you wanted. Our next story is by Crystal X Rose. Put me on hold for no good reason? Enjoy your smoke break. Sitting at the local fast food joint across from an auto parts store waiting for my food. Had called AP Store a few moments before arriving at FFJ to inquire about an alternator for my vehicle. Was put on hold and remained that way. Sure, no problem. However, I soon put 2 and 2 together and realized that dude had put me on hold literally just to BS with a few friends that had stopped by. I could see him clear as day yucking it up with his buddies out front of the store. I also noticed him put out his cig and immediately light up another one while I was still on hold. Cue revenge. So while watching to see what he would do, I hung up and literally called back 5 times. I could see into the AP store very well from where I was sitting, so I deliberately timed it so just as he got to the phone to answer, I would hang up. I stopped calling back when he sent another worker I didn't know was there to deal with the phone while he sat outside. But just for a few moments, my petty little BS felt so good. You almost had like the vantage of a prank show or something, where you're sitting off to the side with your little monitor viewing station, going, "Go, go, go, call him now. Okay, he's left, go again." And our final story of the day is by Aussie Jesus Duck God. Jump the queue, get the wrong directions. So I was at my local supermarket, probably getting a can of drink and a bag of chips, and this guy that looks like your typical boomer quickly rushed to get in front of me. I went to say something but thought, no, I'd rather not. Fortunately, since I said 2 items, they brought me out the front and got me out quicker. After that interaction, I was walking to the park to meet up with a friend, and I hear a beep. And you'll never guess who was trying to get my attention. He said he was lost and asked where to find a nearby town. Said he was going to visit a friend there and couldn't find his town on the map or his GPS. Now this town, more of a village, has a population of roughly 100 people, was halfway up a mountain, and was south of where we were. Oh, town A? Yeah, mate, you'll need to go up the roundabout, turn right, and keep going straight, sending him west. And you'll come through town B, and you'll want to go through that town and drive for another 40 minutes or so until you hit town C. And then you want to turn left at road A, and go for about an hour, and you'll be there. The line jumper said, "Oh, it's really that far away?" I said, "Yeah, mate, it's pretty far out of the way. Good thing you asked, otherwise you probably wouldn't have found it." The line jumper says, "Cheers, mate," and then he drove off. I never saw him again, and while it was childish and I probably shouldn't have given him directions that would have gotten him incredibly lost, and should have only sent him to town B and then tell him town A was where town C was, and yes, I give myself 4 out of 5 assailed points, I felt a slight bit of pride. A-hole tax for jumping the line. I don't think it was completely unreasonable what OP did, but I do feel like the amount of out of the way they tried to send this guy feels a bit unfair, even for a filthy line jumper. For all we know, that guy might still be lost. But with that being said, that's a wrap on another bunch of stories here today. As always, if you guys have any favorite videos of this bunch, let me know which one in the comments down below and why. And if you enjoyed the stories in general, if you could subscribe to this channel, it'd mean a lot to me. I make these videos daily, and it's by far and away the best way to support my channel. So no matter what you did, whether it was subscribing or liking, leaving a comment, I just appreciate the heck out of you guys. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow with even more stories right here on the Storytime channel.